So today we learn a Sikha of Toldos Beis, which is based on the Farbrengen that the Rebbe had on Tavshin Chav Daled, 1963. Shabbos Parshas Toldos. A big part of the Farbrengen was, pretty much the whole Farbrengen was this Sikha, and then a mimer on the same words that the Sikha is based on, Beyitan L'chalikim, and then a few thoughts. So this is a very much a Chassidus Sikha, and very geschmack, and really goes to one of the core themes of the Rebbe's Torah, and that is the idea of Avodah B'Keich Atzmai, that a person has to serve Hashem through their own keichos. But let's go step by step. In our parsha, we read that before Yaakov Avinu was blessed with Beyitam Chalikim, what we say at Motzei Shabbos, Yitzchak Avinu says as an introduction, the Reach B'ni, the smell of my son, Kereach Sada Shebercha Hashem, is like the smell, like the odor of the aroma of a field that God has blessed. In the Sifri, they say regarding this pasuk, Chazal say, that Yitzchak saw the Beis Hamikdash built, destroyed, and then rebuilt Lasid Lavai. And it's hinted in this pasuk, the Eireach B'ni. B'ni is from the word Banui, built. See, the Beis Hamikdash is built. Kedeach Sadeh. Sada, it refers to destruction, as it says, Tzion, Sada Techadesh, that Tzion, Halameria, Yerushalayim will be plowed like a field, so the field symbolizes destruction. And then, Asher Berchei Hashem, the Hashem blessed it is the Binyan Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. Says the Rebbe like this: how is it possible that all three things are part of an introduction to Yaakov's bracha? Especially that one of them is about Churban. So, like the first Beis Hamikdash is the introduction, second Beis Hamikdash, the Churban. How do all three become part of an introduction to the bracha? Also, why is the Churban hinted in the word Sada? The Rebbe says the fact that Reach B'ni Banui serves Beis Hamikdash, I understand, because Reach Nichayach, that in the Beis Hamikdash you had the aroma of the karbanis, that was the ikar in the Beis Hamikdash. And also the fact, Berchei Hashem, the fact that goes in the future Beis Hamikdash, you can understand because that's the ultimate bracha of Hashem, the Binyan Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. But the fact that the Beis Hamikdash, when it's destroyed, is hinted in the word Sadeh, is not understood. There's a lot of other ways of using the Sadeh. Besides the fact that Rebbe says, there's a lot of other ways of referring to the destruction. Besides the fact, Sadeh Techarish only happened much after the Churban. First, they destroyed the buildings, etc., and at a later stage, they actually started plowing in the ground, but it wasn't the actual act of the Churban. And that was going to take very much a Chassidus approach to answer this question, but before that, we have to go on another Nekuda, another analysis, not of the introduction of the bracha, but the bracha itself. How does the bracha that Yitzchak gave to Yaakov start? V'yitem l'chalikim. Says Rashi, quoting the Chazal, V'yitem l'chalikim, yitain v'yachzor v'yitain. He will give, and he will give again. That's why it says v'yitain l'cha. Not yitain, v'yitain, that's connecting to a previous yitain, and he will give more than once. Says the Rebbe like this: what's lacking in the first giving that you need to have a second giving? If it was a basar v'dam, if it was a human being who's giving, we could understand that even if you give an incredible large gift, nevertheless it's limited. But in our context, Hashem's the one that's giving, so the Eibishter can give. You can give everything unlimited at the first time. What's the point of giving and then giving again? And even if you say that there's a limit because ultimately it's only going to one individual, so as much as Hashem could give everything, but there's one individual. But over here, Yaakov is the symbolism and manifesting all of Am Yisrael. As we know that Yaakov was the image, Shufri, Yaakov Avinu, Shufri doesn't have the same look as Adam, and according to Chassidus, according to Kabbalah, what's the explanation? That just like Adam Arishon was in the Neshama Klalis of all Neshamas, Yaakov Avinu was in the Neshama Klalis of all Bnei Yisrael. So when Hashem's giving to Yaakov, he's not giving to an Ishprat, he's not giving to an individual, he's giving to everybody. And this bracha includes Mitala Shamayim, the dew of heaven, Mishmani Eretz, the fat of the land, includes everything. So it's the Eibishter giving it to a non-individual person, but rather a Ish Klali, a general person, a person that resembles and means much more than being an individual. So why does it have to be a giving and then a giving? And also, if it's giving, why v'yitnu l'cha Elokim? Elokim is midas hakvura. Holding back should be midas Shem Havaya. So in order to understand this, we're going to have to go and analyze the hashpa of Adapta Talmud. When a teacher is teaching a student, that there's two fundamental different ways in how to teach. Number one, that the student receives the intellectualism of the Rav, and he could even become one with the Rav, but nevertheless, there's no koyach hachidush, there's no ability of creativity given over to the student. He's a good parrot. He might be not only a parrot, saying the words, he might understand what the Rebbe is saying, what his teacher is saying, but ultimately he does not have the power of chiddush, the power of insight to now let that idea or another idea evolve. Two, that the Talmud receives all the Seichel HaRab on a higher level, that he has the ability to add and to be mechadish. To add, that means to just add on. Mechadish means an entirely new insight through their own strength. And the Rebbe says you see this difference in the Mishnah of Avos in regarding the Talmidim, the students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that Belezer ben Harkanus, Barisut Shenim, he had an unbelievable memory, that he had nothing at all. He lost nothing at all. But Rabbi Lezer ben Arach, Kemayon HaMizgaber. Kemayon, like a river, HaMizgaber, which goes stronger. In other words, he has the ability of Chiddush. And that's great. That's a greater level. As the Mishnah says, that all the Chachmei Yisrael, including Rabbi Lezer ben Hyrcanus, was on one side of the scale. Rabbi Lezer ben Arach on the other side. He would outweigh everybody else. Why? Because what does he have? Even though Rabbi Lezer ben Hyrcanus was incredible, Rabbi Lezer ben Arach has the koyach of Chiddush. So in this Maila, he overrides all the other Chachmei Yisrael. It's not that he's suddenly like bigger than everybody else. The Rebbe points out that it's Dafke Maila Zu that makes him greater. But the point is, the Rebbe says, Elazar ben Hyrcanus had his Maila. What was Elazar ben Hyrcanus' Maila that he was able to retain in a way that Rabbi Lezer ben Arach wasn't able to retain? But Rabbi Lezer ben Arach had the ability of Chiddush. But even that comes from the Koyach HaRab. Because the ultimate goal of being mashpia is that the mashpia puts the student on his feet. Puts him on his legs. That he's able to innovate and come up with new chidushim. So the chidushim themselves are based on the foundations of the Rab. Like the Rebbe says, you even see that in the Mishnah, the context is Chamisha Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. They were ultimately a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, so he gave them everything. But Rabbi Lezer ben Arach had the ability of chiddush. Says the Rebbe, no Istalid. So too, Gam ba'ashpa milamayla de bracha now. We could say the difference in the bracha. As we said, Yitim Yachsav Yitim, there's two kinds of brachas. There's the bracha that you give, and then there's the bracha that the Eibishter gives to allow the person to give in their own way and to be mechadish in their own incredible way. Now, these two levels, the fact that one retains all the information and one has Keach HaChiddush, says that there is also an avodah. The difference between Tzadikim and Baal Teshuva. The Tzadik is Derech HaYashar, goes straight. And he receives all the hashpos from Hashem in a straight way. The Baal Teshuva has to turn over. Mahapech is doing his averis have to turn into mitzvahs. In other words, he does his hapch, he does transformation. So although he's not doing it in the straightforward way, like tzaddikim, which very square, but nevertheless, because it's b'koyach atzma, he's able to elevate the thing that the tzaddik's not able to elevate. They're able to elevate their intentional averis. There's no into mitzvahs. The imkozeh, nevertheless, the avodah of Baal Teshuva, even though it's b'koyach atzma, that also comes from Maila, because the koyach to be awakened to do tshuva comes from Maila. He brings in the Hara, as Yirmiyah says, Shuvu banim sheivavim, come back, sons who are lost, Na'um Hashem. So says Hashem. In other words, Hashem is the one that's giving it to you and telling you to do it and giving you the care to do it. So just like there's a Maila, as we said by the Rav and Talmud, when the Rav is able to put the student on a way that he becomes a Mayna Miskaber, so too there's a Maila about Tshuva over Tzadikim. And that's why the famous thing, wherever about Tshuva stands, Tzadikim cannot stand. What does that mean? Because what's the Maila of the Mayna Miskaber? That they're able to bleak bull, because they're not only limited to what the teacher told them, they have now the power of innovation, and the power of Chiddush is bleak bull. So too the Baal Teshuva has the power of bleak bull in Avodah. The Rebbe says, even though it says we're going Teshuva Kiflayim, double, so that is limited, you must say that that's not the Kavanah only double, but rather it means much more than double. It's a Shem HaMushal, it's just a borrowed term for bleak bull. So Avodah Tzadikim, which is step by step, one after another, is limited. But Avodah Baal Teshuva is Peretz's Kolak Dorim Vagbolos, breaks everything and takes it to the highest level in one moment and with incredible energy. Now, even though these things, as we said, the Eibishter's Hashpah from Lamaylan and Avodah B'Kech Atzmai is found by Tzadikim, as the Rebbe is going to say in a moment. Nevertheless, it's truly found only by Avodah Teshuva. Where do we see that's found by Tzadikim? Because each morning we say, and then we say, in other words, I daven right when I get up. And I make a bracha and I ask Hashem for everything. And then I start my day with koyach atzmai limnator ki mitzvahs k'mayna miskaber. Says that, but nevertheless, even that, the limnator ki mitzvahs that happens after that, throughout the day, because he's doing what he's told, and it's not really a battle. That's not the true avodah b'koyach atzmai. It's not, which is only found in avodah satchil. And that's what we see when the bracha Yaakov Yitem Yachsav Yitain. We're not only talking about things that come from heaven, that Hashem gives to you and gives the ability to stand on your own 2 feet, but rather it's more not only looking at so in Avodah as well, that he gives you the ability of Avodah Tzadikim Yitain, Yachsav Yitain Avodah Baal Teshuva. Says Rebbe, according to this, we could understand, and that is that until this words of Yitzchak, we never use the context for Yitzchak, we never see that bracha. Why? Because till then there was no ability to do tshuva. Avraham Avinu was a tzaddik gomer. Whoever was before him was not Bnei Yisrael. Even Yishmael, who did tshuva, he's not an Ish Yisraeli. Says the Rebbe like this, because it says Avraham Yatzim and Yishmael. Yishmael went away from him, separated. Says the Rebbe that when he did tshuva, he's a different person. He's a new person. And this connects to the famous theme of Chassidus, that when you do tshuva, you return to yourself. Yishmael didn't return to himself because he wasn't a Yid. He became somebody else. However, Esav, Taka Yatzim Menu Esav, he Taka left. But we're told, Chazal say that he was a Yisrael Mummer, he was still a Yid. And had he come back, he would have been going back to his true self. So that's what we see that Yitzchak wanted to bless Esav, because he wanted to give him the ability of tshuva. But the truth is that bracha only exists by Yaakov and Am Yisrael. Even the bracha of Baal Teshuva belonged in Yaakov and his future generations. So now we can explain back to the beginning that Yitzchak Avinu saw the Beis Hamikdash as it's built and as it's destroyed, and it's going to be built again. Because the Bayis Nishain before the Churban is Avodah Tzadikim. It's the gate, straight. The Beis Hamikdash, when it's destroyed and get rebuilt again, is Avodah Baal Teshuva that comes after the Churban. And that's why he also had to see the Beis Hamikdash destroyed, because it fits with the context of the bracha, and that is that Hashem gives you the ability to do also the Avodah Baal Teshuva, which dafka comes after a struggle. And why is it hinted dafka in the word sada, and not something else which connects more to the Churban? Because it's teaching you a theme about tshuva. What is tshuva? Through a bitter heart, medidus. When we feel the pain and the bitterness of being distant from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the heart breaks. And he says, even when a tzaddik does tshuva, in the level of ruach tashav elikim, Hashem the Son, the Spirit goes back. Nevertheless, even a tzaddik gomer has some form of identity. Yesh mi sha'ayav, as it says in Chassidus, There's a yesh, there's an identity that loves Hashem, and that is not absolute good. So when he does tshuva, he's trying to leave that sense of identity, that sense of ego, and there he's leaving bad. In other words, what's tshuva? That he feels that until the way they work till now, it's not enough, it's not good enough, and we got to change. Start a new avodah. And that is Sada Techarish. What's Sada Techarish? Plow a field. That you literally turn the field upside down and you allow for something else new, beautiful to grow. And that's why, based on English Bechub and Asina Sada, because that's what it is. It's truly the transformation and the ability of allowing something new to grow. Says the Rebbe like this. The ultimate goal of the bitterness and tshuva is that you should get elevated to the next level. You should do Torah mitzvahs in a pel mamish in a higher and more beautiful level with more chayes. Because it's not supposed to be that you just feel bitter and then you stay the way you are. Continue doing business, continue doing everything the same level. No, there has to be a whole new level. That's why it says, the new Beis Hamikdash is built and more sophisticated and more beautiful, because you have to reach a new level. You don't just go back to level A. Level C, after the downfall of B, is an entirely new level. And in order for the tshuva to be the way it has to be, the tshuva has to be in the highest level, focusing on the goal is. And that is, I want to do better. I want to build my mitzvahs even better. And that's why another connection between tshuva and sada. Why? That the point of tshuva is not just techarish to be dug up, but sada that it has to plow into something else entirely. In other words, tshuva is not just techarish, it has to turn into a new sada. And that's what explains why it says Shem Elikim and not Shem Havaya, because the main bracha of Yaakov is Avodas HaTshuva, which comes from bitterness, which comes from Shem Elikim. That's from Din and Tzimtzum. Farkvetched. But it's not Elikim Stam. It's not simply V'yitan Lecha Elokim. It's Ha Elokim. Hey idea, the God, the Elikim. Why? Because that is the ultimate revelation that comes after the Tzimtzum, after the mirrors, after the bitterness, the tshuva that comes after the distance, which allows the true exposure, Ayin Le'ra Elikim Zulasecha, that nobody saw the Eibush there besides you. In other words, the ultimate level of revelation by Mashiach Tzidkenu, Ha Elikim, not just Elikim, which is hidden, but the true revelation which is going to come in Mitzvah Hashem, B'Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu.